BYU got the respect they deserved in the college football playoff rankings. Jake Hatch of Locked On BYU Cougars is here to discuss just that. They take on the team ranked one slot behind them, understandably so, because Texas Tech has a loss. BYU doesn't. I want to start with your rankings reaction, Jake. Did you feel BYU was rated appropriately?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually expected BYU to be a little worse than they were. So to have them sitting at number 7, I will take that every day, especially considering BYU's more recent history with the College Football Playoff Committee actually downgrading them more often than upgrading them.
Yeah, I mean, last year the narrative for BYU at the end was they're 10-2 with a road win over a playoff team, and there was just no discussion in the national space outside of maybe my show about what BYU's playoff chances were. It's just, nope, can't do it. And everyone looks around and goes, wait a minute. 10 wins, road playoff team win. What are we missing? So, what do you think the threshold is this year? Is it the same that it's been? You think BYU has to win 11 games or be a 2-loss Big 12 champion?
Yeah, that's easy to say because here's the deal. If BYU has 2 losses in the regular season, Spencer, suddenly the Big 12 is kind of back where it was last year with a bunch of teams right there amongst one another. And in many respects, if BYU loses 2 games down the stretch here, there is a really scary scenario that Utah, who they have a head-to-head win over, could actually get their slot in Arlington simply due to conference schedule strength of record.
How would that work out?
They have the overall strength of record is better for Utah right now than it is for BYU. And that's one of the key tiebreakers in the Big 12 race. It's a big reason why BYU, I've said this before on my podcast, I think I've said it here before, BYU last year lost to Kansas and Arizona State. Had BYU beaten Kansas and lost to Houston, they still would have made it into the Big 12 title game instead of vice versa.
But the head-to-head has to be there first.
Not in the way that it's shaken out right now with this Big 12 race.
Wait, hold on. For those listening or watching, you can tell I'm getting this information for the very first time. Yeah. You're telling me that if BYU has 2 Big 12 losses at the end of the year, and Utah has 2 Big 12 losses, and BYU beat them, the Utes could go to the Big 12 championship game and BYU could not?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And are you saying that to give me a dumbfounded look, or are you saying that because that's what the rules actually dictate?
That's what the rules dictate right now. It's the way it could shake out. So here's a simple fact for BYU. Lose 1 game, you're playing in Arlington, and you're likely in contention for a college football playoff berth. If you're 10-2, yeah, you got to hope that Utah drops a game along the path for you to still be in Arlington and have a chance to go to the playoff.
Brett Yormark, what are you doing, man? What? It's fine to have other tiebreakers if there's no head-to-head. The first tiebreaker is supposed to be head-to. Okay. All right. Let's talk about this game against Texas Tech, because this is one of the best games of the year in college football. It is the game day matchup, understandably so. I think it is great. In Lubbock, BYU, an underdog of almost 10 points. I talked about that on my show yesterday, Jake, and It just makes me go, I don't know. What is BYU the team that Vegas can't figure out, or are they going 2 for 2 after Utah with a game day game was an 8.5, 9.5 point favorite, and they win by 31 last week against the Bearcats? Give me your outlook of this game against the Red Raiders for BYU.
I'm not sure why the line is so decided in favor of Texas Tech, because BYU, simply put, has just found ways to win all season long. I think it's probably due to the fact they've had to come back in a bunch of these Big 12 games that Vegas feels like there's like a little bit of a luck runs out scenario maybe coming to fruition this weekend in Lubbock for them. But I think BYU is very capable of covering. I think it's a 9.5 point spread last I checked when we recorded this podcast. I still think the Cougars are within a score of Texas Tech. I don't think it's as high as 10 points.
If BYU wins this game, what has happened?
Everything that I have believed about BYU and wanted to be true is true. I don't know.
Let me ask a more direct question. For BYU to go on the road and beat a really good team, like we know, Texas Tech is a really good team. When Baron Morton is healthy, look, I have made some incorrect predictions in my day, Jake. I have also had some nail on the head, spot on. Nothing has been as sharp as my preseason number one power ranking team in the Big 12 was Texas Tech. I think that's my best one to date, just based on, I don't know, when Baron Morton's healthy, they're beating the crap out of the entire conference so far. If BYU goes to Lubbock and wins this game, what will they have done?
They will have asserted themselves as an actual playoff contender. Because if you can beat the likes of Texas Tech, Spencer, I think you're capable of contending for a national title. Because I am with you. I think Texas Tech was the class of the Big 12 preseason, have proven that when they are 100% healthy, you mentioned Baron Morton in particular, they just beat up on people. And I don't have to look any further if you're a BYU fan than what they did to Utah. And I know that Will Hammond came into that game, but I'm telling you, this is a Texas Tech team that is not to be taken lightly. If given the opportunity, they will absolutely pound you into the ground, and BYU has to avoid that.
When you look at this matchup and get into the X's and O's and all of it, are there one, two, or maybe even three things that stand out as, man, if BYU doesn't do this, then the game is just not going to go their way?
They have to find a way to establish a ground game. We understand that LJ Martin is going to go in this game. How healthy is he? That remains to be determined. Aaron Roderick has said it himself. We're going to find out on Saturday. He's going to give it a go. If BYU cannot find a consistent ground game that keeps Texas Tech's defense honest, and what I mean by that is keeping guys like David Bailey from pinning their ears back and coming after Bear Bachmeier, it's going to be a really, really long game for BYU and Lubbock. The other thing I'm paying attention to is the health of BYU's own linebacking core. Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasker, Stialia Serra, all have picked up injuries in the last few weeks. That bye week was much needed for them to heal up. If they are close to anywhere near 100%, that will be a major, major help to BYU's defense having a chance to slow down Texas Tech.
I think the BYU offensive line is critical in this one. Not that they aren't important in any game, but I think there's just an added level of the Cougars have to get that group to play well. If they don't, I think this is just such a tough spot to be in on the road. Obviously, BYU off the bye, but Texas Tech at home. Crowds should be on fire. But you can't, as you mentioned, get Texas Tech's defense into spots where they know you're throwing the ball. If David Bailey can just not have to worry about a running threat whatsoever, that's a problem. But the other reason, the O-line, I think, is the most important group in this game for BYU to ultimately get the win, Jake, is that the run game, staying out of third and long, those two things also go hand in hand. You hear coaches say all the time, stay ahead of the chain, stay on schedule. BYU has to stay on schedule, and if the offensive line is getting pushed around, that's going to be difficult. And Bear Bachmeier is a gamer. Dude can make the winning play. He's not going to go in and go for 290 and 3 touchdowns and be a John Mateer type, a Haynes King type that moves you up and down the field basically by himself. He's got to have that supporting cast, and he's had it this year. I'm not saying that they haven't been able to do that this season. Obviously they have. It's why they're undefeated. But in this game in particular, I think more than any other Big 12 game, including Utah, by the way, that BYU offensive line has to be at its best. If you tell me they just play average, if a time traveler comes from the future, first of all, how'd you do it? Who invented it? How can I make money from it? Second thing is, how does BYU, I just don't know without the O-line how they could find a way to win.
Yeah, they got to keep Bear Bachmeier upright and give him the space to operate, because you mentioned the fact he's a gamer. When given time and space, he is absolutely deadly. But what Texas Tech has proven with guys like David Bailey and Jacob Rodriguez and the host of characters they have in that front seven is they are ferocious, they're swarming, and BYU's offensive line has to be able to protect him. I fully expect also their tight ends and running backs will be held in on max protects as well. Because like I mentioned, if you can keep him upright, speaking of Bear Bachmeier, that will give you a fighting chance. But it's a much more difficult task than any other team BYU has played to this point, because Texas Tech's defense is absolutely top tier.
You have a score prediction in this game, Jake?
I've been going back and forth on this. I'm just going to say this. If the line holds right around 10 points, I think BYU covers. I think they're within that threshold of being in this game. I'm still not certain of what I'm going to peg down as my score yet.
I'm kind of with you, because we're recording this episode on Tuesday night. That's too early. That's way too early for predictions. Here on Locked On College Football, we're in game discussion mode, and we love doing that with Jake Hatch, Locked On BYU Cougars. Great, as always. Playoff implications, playoff hopes are on the line under the radar games to keep an eye on this weekend.